When it comes to survival, what does the Army know? Now we're going to start class 3 on survival, and we are titling this video, What Does the Army Know? And kind of started off joking about it, but the Army actually does know quite a bit, and we are going to just do a very super quick review on about 4 or 5 different Army publications. A few of them are not really Department of the Army publications, but some of them are put out by Army personnel after they got out of the service, and they have some good things about survival in them. So we're not going to crack on any of these publications, but we're going to just highlight what I thought was the best part out of each. And if you need to learn some of these things, then you can definitely go to these sources. And I recommend that you read. If you read in a book How to Survive, you're only half armed. You really need to go out there and do some practical app. You don't want to read a book and then think you know how to survive and then get caught in a survival situation without having gone through the trial and error period of learning. So you read a lot, read lots and lots of stuff, then go out and do the practical application, the trial and error, and learn from that, get some experience from that, and you'll come out better every time. Not just survival, finances, building a dog house, whatever it is. Read about it and then go out and try to fix it. A lot of people go to YouTube and pretend like YouTube is books, but definitely go out and buy some books and read. And that's what I've done in this, not only this situation of survival, but American history, all these different things. I study books and then try to go out and apply it in my life. So the first book I'm going to show you is not really an Army publication at all. It's put out by a guy named Chris McNabb. And you can see there it looks like a military book, and that's the reason I bought it. And it's a pretty good book, and it purports to be an Elite Forces Wilderness Survival Guide. And the guy that put it out is not an Elite Force operator or anything like that I know of. I don't know every detail about him, but he's listed in the book as a hunting guide. Basically, that's what I got out of it. So he might have some SAS background, I don't know, but it says in the book that he's a hunting guide. So this book is called the Elite Forces Wilderness Survival Guide. And the best thing that I got out of this book is I like to eat fish when I'm out in the woods, when I'm surviving, when I'm camping, backpacking, hiking for a couple days, whatever I'm doing, I like to eat fish. And this has some good fish traps in it, some good ideas, and it also has a very basic first aid section in it. And it reminds me a lot of the classes that I took for CPR and first aid certification from the Red Cross. Very similar things. Of course, you're in a first aid class from the Red Cross, you're going to get some hands-on stuff, some hands-on training, whereas in the book you're just, if you've already had the class, that's great, because this will be a good refresher course on that. And that is the 2 best things that I got out of this book, so we'll move on to the next one. The next book we're going to look at is the Army Ranger Handbook. And that is, so this is a pretty good book. It's kind of boring, and the illustrations in it aren't the greatest of any of the publications that I have, but it is pretty good. And the major sections that I enjoyed and really got a lot out of in this book is, one of the first sections that you read in this book is about leadership, and they have some good things to say about that and some good principles to follow. Those are good things that I found in this book. And also they have a good section on land nav. They have good things to say about choosing routes when you're going into a situation, when you're leaving a situation. Then, like I say, they have a good section on land nav. And those, to me, are the 2 strongest points in this book. And really all I'm doing is I'm comparing all these books together and saying the strong suits of each book. And the Land Nav was real good in this, and the leadership section was real good in this. Some of these other books touch on mindset, which we've already touched on, but they don't really go into a lot of detail, and I tried to go into a lot of detail in that particular video. I believe that was class number 1. But these books just touch the surface of mindset, but this book here really talks a good deal about and makes a lot of sense about leadership qualities and principles. And so I recommend this book for that, Land Nav and Leadership. All right, let's go on to the next book. This next book is Field Manual 3-90, and it is the Army Tactics Field Manual. And so rather than being a survival guide, if you've been in the military, you understand the difference between a field manual and just a regular handbook. But at any rate, you might wonder why I'm using a field manual or recommending a field manual on tactics when we're really talking about survival situations. And what I'm trying to get across to you in this book is constructive thinking. If you're going to survive, you're going to have constructive thinking. And reading a boring book like this is going to bore you to death. But if you'll stick with it and read it and actually try to get the concepts, it actually builds constructive thinking. And you're going to need the ability to take what you know, which is sometimes going to be little, and you're going to have to build on techniques, crafts, whatever the case might be. If this works over here and this works over here, then how can I use these things to complement one another and build my chances of surviving? That's constructive thinking. The next one we're going to look at is the U.S. Army Survival Manual, and it is my favorite, and it's probably going to be all of my Army friends' favorite, if I have any Army friends, because it's edited by Colonel Underwood, United States Marine Corps, retired. And you probably think I'm biased because, being a Marine, finding an Army manual that was edited by a Marine, of course it's going to be my favorite. But it's not really my favorite because it's edited by a Marine. Every time I look at a field manual or a survival manual or anything like that, my biggest question is always, what can I eat while I'm in the woods that is not going to give me a stomach ache for 3 days? And this book has the best illustrations of any book that I've ever found. Some of these other books have some of the same information because they're Army publications. Some of them are almost word for word with this one. But the illustrations are drawn, the illustrations are this big, the pictures are this big, or they're real small square things stuck in a corner someplace. You can't see them, you can't see the detail. These are color pictures and they're very well illustrated. There's the snakes. They're not just a little black and white drawn snake. The things that you can eat are actually close-up photographs. And so that in and of itself would make this my favorite manual. This next survival guide is almost identical to the one I just showed you, the small green manual by Colonel Underwood. This one is edited by Jay McCullough, and it is a Department of the Army publication. It's the Ultimate Survival Manual, the Ultimate Survival Guide. It says, the ultimate guide to U.S. Army survival skills, tactics, and techniques. This book has just about everything in it that you could imagine. It has the same explanation about vegetation, things you can eat, things you can't eat. It's got a very in-depth first aid. It has the best first aid section of any of the manuals that I own. It has a great land nav section. It has a lot of things like that. It's not as well illustrated. It has a hand-to-hand combat section in here, which I suggest that if you're tempted to use this, cut those pages out. Do not learn hand-to-hand combat from a book. Just don't do it. I know a lot of people in the 70s bought a book to learn how to fight like Bruce Lee, and a lot of guys got beat up or beat themselves up with them nunchucks and stuff like that. But this is, again, black and white illustrations that are not as good as the other one, but it is very thorough. It has good land nav, has great first aid, and my favorite thing about this book above the others is the first aid section. It has the section on leadership. It has the section on mindset. It has a lot of things that the last manual had. And so it has the psychology of survival, which is pretty decent. Look at stress and stuff like that. Of course, Marines don't need that one because they don't get stressed out. But good for the Army. I like the way they've broken down. The other book does the same thing, but survival, each letter in the word survival is broken down. Size up the situation, use all your senses, remember where you are, vanquish fear and panic, which a Marine does in boot camp. Improvise, value living, act like the natives, live by your wits. So survival is broken down into its own survival guide. And of course, that's very basic and very wide range of thoughts are given in that, but that's what the book does as it goes through. It tries to teach you how to do all those things. It's a very good manual. Not very well illustrated, but it is a very good manual if you're looking for a survival manual. And I recommend you read every page of all of them, but again, we're just pointing out the strong suits in each one of these. Let me show you one more and we'll be finished. Now, being a long-range shooter myself, this is one of my favorite books. I'm not talking about just survival books, but one of my favorite books of all. And this is The Ultimate Sniper. And a lot of people call this the Sniper's Bible. But since I'm a Baptist pastor, I don't much want to put anything on the same level with the Bible. But this is a great survival guide in and of itself, and it's not really a survival book, but one thing that is great about this book, besides all the shooting stuff, and you can probably understand that it is mainly a shooting book, has everything you need to know in it as far as I'm concerned. But this book has some great stuff on preparing for the mission. And when you hear somebody talk about survival, they're always going to tell you, always be prepared to survive. Take a go bag with you. Have some everyday carry stuff. On YouTube, you hear it, EDC all the time. EDC. That's everyday carry. This book goes through some things about how to plan your everyday carry. Kind of have to have some foreknowledge about where you're going and what kind of situations you're going to be in. But it tells you if you're going to be an extended period of time, take this, this, and this. If it's going to be a small time, take this, this, and this. And it also tells you you're never going to be able to get it exactly right. So always carry a little bit more than what you think you'll need. But in this situation, you'll need this. And that's what we're talking about here on the channel. We're talking about not only getting lost out in the woods or on a desert island or something like that where you're away from civilization, but sometimes things are going to happen within civilization. We call that civil unrest or civil survival, different things like that. But if you've got a partner, if you don't have a partner, so we're talking about in our classes a group survival, singular survival, city, civil survival, wilderness survival. This has some good ideas for equipment that you should take or use or have on hand, emergency bags, go bags, all this stuff that we're interested in as campers and hikers and survivalists. And so this has some really good tips that would help you on those. Again, that's The Ultimate Sniper. And this is Major John L. Plaster, United States Army, retired. And this guy has a lot of information on law enforcement, military, for bodyguards or whatever the case might be, security applications. This is a great book that I recommend. It's a little bit expensive, but I do recommend it if you can get it, and it will give you some great ideas about not just survival, but planning ahead, give you some idea of what you'll need based on their experiences. And so take all these books and read them, and then go out there and get your own experiences on purpose before you have to survive because you have to. And so do these things on purpose. Get out there and do the practical application, and then when you need to survive, you'll not only have the book smarts or the YouTube smarts, but you'll have the experience. And that's what we're looking for, experience.